Update: my mother-in-law repeatedly commented on my weight after I had my twins, even going so far as to give me a scale as a birthday gift just 3 weeks after I gave birth. I eventually reached my breaking point, told her off, and kicked her out of my party. Now, my husband insists that I should apologize to his elderly mother because she was supposedly just concerned about my health. So I was glad that at least he had come to his senses regarding his mother and was apologizing for it, but that was not all that I wanted to talk about. We also needed to talk about the fact that he hadn't treated me as well as I deserved lately. By that, I meant the fact that he had continued to constantly force his family's presence on me, even though I had made it very clear that I wanted to be on my own for a while with just him and the kids since I was exhausted, and that meant both emotionally and physically. I guess I had mentioned in my original post that I had brought it up with him earlier as well, and he had argued with me, calling me selfish for wanting to keep him and our kids away from his family. I didn't want to drag out that fight, so I dropped it, but since it had become a bit of an issue in our relationship, I brought it up once again. This time, I had no intention of dropping it until it was sorted out. He had apologized about the thing with Agnes, but here he told me that he did not think he was wrong. Apparently, his family was really excited that he had become a father, and it was a huge deal for everyone. That's not very surprising because, right from his childhood, he has kind of been the darling of his family, and that has meant that I have also been showered with a lot of love and affection by them. But whenever they would come over in the past 3 weeks, it would only be me who would have to sacrifice time with my babies to entertain them and occasionally cook for them. Even though it might not have seemed like a lot of work to him, it took a toll on me, and I told him that it was not fair since neither he nor his mother had been of any help to me. Even though he had started working from home, he barely did any of the household chores anymore because he was always busy with the kids, and that responsibility fell on me. As for Agnes, I have already said that she never did anything around the house, and when she came over to play with the kids, she didn't even help me out with changing them and stuff, so I was pretty upset about that as well. Here, though, he said that he could understand that it had become a lot of work for me, but it was unfair of me to expect him to tell his family that they were not allowed to come over at all. All of them were very excited, and he did not want to squash that, which is why he had argued with me. I'm not very close with my family apart from my parents, so my relatives had only video called me to congratulate me and see the babies, but hadn't visited so far. Part of the reason for that was that I had specifically instructed them not to come over right now, and that I would tell them when I was ready to have visitors. I tried to explain to my husband that no matter how much they loved us, it was very important to have boundaries as well, but he refused to understand what I was getting at. He just kept insisting that his family was doing this out of love, not just for him but also for me and the babies, and I couldn't overlook that since that would be disrespectful. They were a very close-knit family, and since I had always known it, he didn't understand why I was making a big deal of it right now. After one point, it started feeling like we were just talking in circles, so I told him that there was clearly no point in discussing this further. We were totally at a standstill. You know how it is when you're both convinced you're right? Yeah, that was us. Classic case of butting heads. I was like, look, I need to clear my head and figure this out. So I told him straight up that I'd be crashing at my parents' place for a while. Just needed some space to sort through this mess, you know? Now, don't get me wrong, divorce has crossed my mind. But I've hit the pause button on that whole idea for now. I mean, we've got kids in the picture, and I'm trying to do right by them. But honestly, I'm not even sure what that looks like at this point. It's like, what's best for the kids? Staying together and dealing with all this trauma? Splitting up? I'm totally lost here. So for now, I'm just taking it day by day, trying to get my head straight before I make any big moves. It's tough, you know? You want to do what's best for everyone, but sometimes you're not even sure what that is. So here I am, in limbo, trying to figure out my next step. Talk about being stuck between a rock and a hard place. A divorce is a big deal, and once I get involved, I can never go back, so whatever I have to do, I have to think about it very carefully, and I don't want to make a mistake. This is why I have decided that I'm going to take my time and talk about this to my husband a couple of times more, and if we are still not able to come to a conclusion that works for both of us, then I might have to get a divorce. But I'm treating that as a last option right now. Update 2. Hey, so 2 days ago, my husband visited me, and I'm still thinking about what I want to do, but a couple of hours ago, I did receive a text from Agnes, and that was quite surprising because she was actually apologizing to me. Of course, the tone was very passive-aggressive, and it was very obvious to me that she didn't really want to apologize, but she still did, even if it was just for the sake of maintaining a civil relationship. She told me that she had heard from her son that I had left home with the kids, and she knew that she was part of the reason that I had done this, so she felt like it was her responsibility to try and make this right. Personally, I don't agree with her. This is between me and my husband, and maybe she was a part of the reason why we had a fight in the first place, but she can't exactly help us sort this out. Anyway, she said that she really didn't want us to separate because that might not be the best move for the kids. Again, I can't agree with that because I think if we separate right now, it might be better for them in the long run because they'll never have known us as a couple in the first place. I think that's a better alternative than sticking together, being toxic for a couple of years, and then traumatizing both our children before we eventually part ways anyway. I'm not thinking about a divorce right now, so that doesn't actually apply. Regardless of that, Agnes apologized and said that if this helped the situation, she would be glad to say that she was sorry about how she treated me, even though she is still going to maintain that she was only trying to look out for my health and make sure that I didn't compromise my well-being. She claimed that she came from an era where being skinny was considered the healthiest, and maybe she was mistaken, but that's what she had been raised to believe, and she had been imposing that on me, which was wrong. If I'm being frank, her apology was all over the place, and it was kind of contradictory in itself, but hey, at least I received one, and that's something to think about. I'm not sure if my husband had put her up to this or not, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, my relationship with my husband does not depend on her apology. I replied to Agnes and told her that it was fine, that I forgive her, and I'm still thinking about what I want to do about the situation with my husband, but I'm thankful that she took the initiative to apologize to me. But yes, I still have no idea what to do, so some advice would be greatly welcomed. Update 3. Hey, it has been 2 weeks since I left home, and for the past 2 weeks, my husband and I have been talking about everything back and forth. At first, he would only visit to see the kids and ask me if I had changed my mind, and I would say no, and then we would have another argument about who was being selfish. But both of us got pretty exasperated after one point. It got really annoying, so I just told him that maybe it would be for the best to just end it and move on with our lives since we were obviously never going to be able to work this out. I think that was about when he got really quiet and asked me if that was really what I wanted, and that forced me to really think about the situation, whether that was what I wanted or not. And honestly, I didn't. What I really wanted was for him to understand me, to apologize to me, and to make everything right again. That was what I really wanted, and that's what I told him that day. He told me that he wanted the same thing as well because, at the end of the day, we really loved each other. We had been together for 6 years, we had kids now, and I don't know, but this seems like something worth fighting for. That day, he told me that he was going to come back the next day after work with a clearer head, and we would try to sort things out because obviously, if both of us wanted to make it work for each other, there was no reason for us to get a divorce. I decided to do the same, to think about everything with a clearer head and keep an open mind to try and understand him instead of trying to defeat him, just so that we would be able to make this work. After that, he started visiting every day, and there was a lot of explaining, a lot of listening, some arguing, some apologizing, and a lot of reassurance. 2 days ago, we felt like we had finally been able to sort things out, and it was really relieving because I did not want to leave him. He promised me that he would tell his family, and especially Agnes, that right now it was not the perfect time to visit us so frequently and that we needed our own space, and I would apologize to the rest of the family for my outburst the other day at my party. We have also promised each other that from now on, it's going to be us against the problem and not us versus each other, since that's clearly not going to lead us anywhere, and it's only going to hurt each other. We don't want that, and we definitely don't want to hurt the kids, so we're going to try and be better partners so we can eventually be better parents. I'm going back home with him tomorrow, and my parents are also pretty happy about the way we were able to deal with this, so I guess all's well that ends well. Thank you so much for all the advice.